And also tonight, 13 Investigates exposes some information the IRS has been trying to keep secret. We have now learned the IRS is allowing millions of illegal immigrants to use Social Security numbers that are not theirs.
The federal agency not only knows about it, the IRS is actually encouraging it to happen. Senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel shows you how it's resulting in widespread identity theft that impacts millions of people.
The IRS knows about this and they're letting it happen?
Yes, we're not allowed to say anything.
Does the government know that you're blowing the whistle right now?
Probably not.
They've worked for the IRS for a long time, and they're risking their jobs to come forward.
I love my country. That's why I'm here.
These whistleblowers do not want to show their identity, but they do want to show how the IRS is allowing millions of people to get away with identity theft. Unsuspecting taxpayers have no idea.
That's wrong.
Absolutely awful.
The problem is massive.
It affects millions of taxpayers.
And the IRS's official policy is to look the other way. You were told to ignore it?
Yes, it's a crime. I don't care how you call it, it's a crime.
More from those whistleblowers in a moment, but first, here's what they're talking about. Everyone who earns money in the United States is required to file a tax return, even people who are here illegally. So the IRS issues undocumented workers an individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN. That's the number that goes on their tax returns. But an ITIN can't be used to get a job. That requires a Social Security number, which undocumented workers can't legally get. To work, many undocumented immigrants figure out a way to get a Social Security number anyway, a number that does not belong to them. In fact, it could belong to you. And therein lies the problem. At tax time, millions of undocumented workers send the IRS their ITIN tax return, and along with it, many send a W-2 that shows income they earned using someone else's Social Security number. The ID numbers on these forms, well, they clearly don't match. It's a huge warning sign for identity theft. But amazingly, the IRS accepts the tax return anyway and simply looks the other way.
We're not supposed to do anything. Just let it go.
You have to keep it quiet.
Right.
You've both gone to your bosses to complain about this.
Yes, and nothing's done.
So what's the big deal? Well, just ask Alfred Allen.
I got a letter from the IRS.
And Dave Burian.
I received a letter in the mail from the IRS.
Both of these men were accused of underreporting their income, cheating the government out of money.
They said that I had falsely done my taxes.
The IRS wanted more money from you.
Correct.
In reality, Dave and Alfred are victims of identity theft. Undocumented workers got jobs using their Social Security numbers. It took Dave months to prove to the IRS that the suspicious income wasn't actually his.
I had to make a police report with the city of Fort Wayne. I had to make a police report with the state. I had to get an affidavit and sign that, send it all to the IRS, and then wait and see what their response was. Very time-consuming.
Alfred had to do the same thing. And while he was trying to clear things up with the IRS, he and his family were actually denied state health insurance because of the mix-up.
I had to go months hoping that my kids wouldn't get hurt because they didn't have the insurance.
Alfred and Dave are not alone. 13 Investigates discovered this government audit report. It reveals more than 1.2 million cases of suspected identity theft linked to undocumented immigrants who use someone else's Social Security number to get a job. That's 1.2 million victims in a single year.
They really don't have a process to stop it.
Russ Martin is the U.S. Treasury Department's Assistant Inspector General. His office has been warning the IRS about employment-related identity theft since the year 2000.
It is a continued problem for IRS. This is a form of identity theft. It affects millions of taxpayers.
The IRS is facilitating a crime. Why is this allowed to happen?
I think you should ask the IRS.
We tried that. For weeks, Eyewitness News asked the IRS for an interview. We even went to the agency's headquarters in Washington, but the IRS declined to meet with us. So we looked for answers elsewhere, and this is what we found. The IRS policy manual, huge, printed out more than 21,000 pages. Some of the manual is official use only, meaning it's secret from the public. But 13 Investigates obtained some of those sections too, like this confidential policy warning IRS employees do not disclose to the taxpayer that their Social Security number was used by someone else to get a job. And the IRS manual suggests that's not even identity theft. It says right here, an undocumented worker who uses your Social Security number to get a job is a borrower. That's right, not stealing, just borrowing. Did you give anyone permission to borrow your Social Security number?
Of course not.
Would you ever consider allowing someone to do that?
Absolutely not, no. Bottom line, it's wrong. It's theft.
If you're borrowing something and that person doesn't know and probably wouldn't want for you to borrow it, that's not borrowing, that's stealing.
Are tax filers allowed to borrow someone else's Social Security number?
Hell no, it's stealing. You're taking something without that person's consent. That is stealing. Every day you see this over and over and over and over again. And I know where the person lives, where they work.
You're seeing who is stealing the Social Security number, and you're not allowed to say anything to anybody.
That is exactly right. I'm not allowed to tell them.
And the policy has consequences.
It's really upsetting to hear something like that, especially since I've been doing this for 4 years.
2011 is when Alfred got his first notice from the IRS alleging he didn't report all his income. Now it's happened again. It appears the same person is still using Alfred's Social Security number to get jobs. And why not? The IRS allows it.
That's only going to cause more people to do it.
Victims like these now get special PIN numbers from the IRS so they can file their tax returns more securely. But that's addressing a symptom while ignoring the real problem, that the IRS has documentation showing millions of Social Security numbers are being used illegally, and the IRS has no plan or strategy to stop it.
That hurts.
I think it's wrong.
You cannot just hide something from the taxpayer, something like this big. It's not right. It's not right.
The IRS sent us a statement defending the term borrowers and saying the agency administers the tax code the way Congress has written it while dealing with huge budget cuts at the same time. We have the IRS's full statement and some of its confidential policies posted on our website right now. You can find that at WTHR.com.
Okay, so let me get this straight. If somebody borrows your Social Security number to get a job, is there any way you can find out?
Well, it's a good question. Actually, last year, the IRS did a pilot study, a program to acknowledge and to reach out to people in that very situation. But sources close to the IRS tell me the agency is stopping that because of budget cuts and it's too expensive. So right now, your best bet is when you get your annual Social Security earnings statement, you get that once a year, check that very closely for income that you don't recognize. That's a clear sign of identity theft, and also check your credit reports very closely so you can stay on top of it, because if it's happening to the IRS, they're not going to inform you.
Do anything about it. Such a huge problem, Bob. Thank you. And that investigation continues tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, you'll hear from some undocumented workers who use Social Security numbers that aren't really theirs.
Does the IRS know that's not your Social Security number?
Of course, I think at the IRS, they know.
Do you think this is stealing?
Well, that all depends how you look at it.
Well, on that part of the story as we continue investigating the IRS tomorrow night at 6.
The IRS knows that millions of people have been using Social Security numbers that don't belong to them, and the agency simply is looking the other way.
The result is a massive identity theft problem created by the government. Our Eyewitness News investigation exposed this secret IRS policy.
Tonight, our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel shows you a part of the story you've never seen. The reason why millions of people are using Social Security numbers that are not theirs.
Maria has lived in Indiana for 26 years. Jose has worked dozens of jobs. Together, they have 3 beautiful children. But the numbers tell only part of the story, because when you're living as an illegal immigrant, there are some numbers that don't add up. How did you get a Social Security number?
We go to Chicago and buy the Social Security number.
They're not really your Social Security numbers.
That's correct. I know that's fake.
Not yours.
Not mine. That's a number somebody else made for me, and they put my name on there.
Jose has used his purchased Social Security number to get hired as a mechanic, a salesman, a construction worker, and a home contractor. It's not legal, but he says it's necessary.
Every time we go and try to get a job, they're going to ask for a Social Security number. We have to do it. If we don't do it, nobody's going to come and tell us, hey, here's money to buy or to pay your rent, to pay your bills or wherever.
It's the exact same story for millions of undocumented workers now living and working in the United States. And 13 Investigates exposed an unintended consequence: identity theft, as some illegal immigrants end up with a social security number that belongs to someone else. And the IRS sees it all the time.
It is a continued problem for IRS. This is a form of identity theft. It affects millions of taxpayers.
But even when the IRS sees someone else using your social security number to earn money, the agency has an internal policy to not disclose that information to you. And the IRS doesn't even consider it a crime. It's just borrowing, according to IRS policy. That's why Jose and other undocumented workers can file a tax return each year using their own individual taxpayer identification number, along with a W-2 listing a social security number that's not really theirs. The numbers, they don't match, but the IRS doesn't care. Does the IRS know that's not your social security number?
Of course, I think the IRS, they know.
Do you think this is stealing?
Well, that all depends how you look at it.
Jose insists his social security number is a completely made-up number, and he's pretty sure it's not stolen from someone else.
Right now, the number does not belong to nobody.
But that's what Marcos Lopez thought. The undocumented worker from Mexico also bought a social security number in Chicago. He used it to get jobs all around Indianapolis, to file taxes and to get tax refunds. But the number belonged to a baby. As Adam Bracken grew up, he had no idea a stranger was using his identity. The IRS didn't say a word. By the time Adam and his mom figured it out, Lopez had run up unpaid bills, ruining Adam's credit.
This is a crime. It's illegal. It's stealing. He has stolen from us.
Lopez was arrested after 13 Investigates and local police finally caught up with him. Turns out he was using 6 different names and 5 social security numbers. Cases like this are unusual, according to immigration attorney Sarah Moshe.
There is no malicious intent in the vast majority of cases I see.
She says most illegal immigrants aren't looking to steal anything, even if they do get a hold of a social security number.
There's no intent to rob someone of their identity. It's purely to be able to get a job and earn an income to support their families.
She also points out illegal immigrants getting jobs and filing tax returns brings in billions of dollars for the government. The question is how to do that without putting millions of Americans at risk for identity theft.
It is a broken system. It is a catch-22.
Sooner or later, we hope the laws is going to change. The government is going to know we paid our taxes. We just come to do a job, not to steal nothing, and do the right way.
Undocumented workers tell me they're trying to work within IRS rules. The IRS says how and where illegal immigrants get social security numbers for jobs is none of their business. But some lawmakers disagree. They want more protections for taxpayers, and they're taking action. More on that next week.
And tonight, an eyewitness news investigation is triggering some very swift action in Washington, D.C. Lawmakers are angry about a secret IRS policy exposed by 13 Investigates.
That policy allows other people to borrow your social security number, and then the IRS keeps it a secret. Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel says Congress is now working on a fix to that problem.
It's something the IRS has tried to keep secret for years.
That's wrong.
Absolutely awful.
It affects millions of taxpayers.
It's a confidential policy that allows illegal immigrants to use your social security number without your permission. And if you become a victim, the IRS won't tell you.
We are not supposed to do anything. Just let it go.
You have to keep it quiet.
Right.
13 Investigates revealed the secret policy last week after IRS whistleblowers agreed to come forward to expose the problem.
You cannot just hide something from the taxpayer, something like this big.
And this senator from Indiana has been watching.
It's not right. It's not right.
I'm outraged. Anybody's social security number is personal to that person. And this is one of the biggest pieces of abuse that I've come across.
Senator Dan Coates is angry to see what Eyewitness News has uncovered at the IRS, that the agency allows and even encourages undocumented workers to use social security numbers that don't belong to them.
Here the IRS is taking something that is illegal and it actually instructing people how to create fraud. It's just simply unacceptable, and it is abuse of power of this agency.
But he's even more angry to see what the IRS has been trying to hide. This is confidential. This is secret from the public. Policies to keep identity theft secret from the taxpayers who are victims.
You've exposed it. It's no longer classified. This is an outrage and it needs to be addressed.
His biggest question for the IRS?
Why? Why are you doing this?
That's what 13 Investigates has been wanting to know. The IRS would not meet with us to answer that question, but Senator Coates is now taking it straight to the top of the IRS.
An Indianapolis investigative reporter brought this to my attention, and I want to see if you can address this issue or are in the process of addressing this issue so that it doesn't happen again.
It's a important and complicated situation, as you can imagine.
John Koskinen is the IRS commissioner. Last week, he answered questions from the Senate Finance Committee. Senator Coates sits on that committee, and he wasted no time asking the commissioner about what 13 Investigates uncovered.
Can we fix this?
A significant number of those Social Security numbers are borrowed or used from relatives or someone else. But again, we don't know where they've come from or why. And our view is if we start pursuing employers and undocumented aliens, then nobody's going to file their taxes.
Well, shouldn't it be in the government's interest also to care for the victim and put something in place that will give the victim official notification their Social Security number has been stolen, because it has an impact on individuals who have been the victims?
We'd be delighted to talk with you further about it and figure out how we can deal with both aspects of it.
He has said he will meet with me, and he will meet with our committee.
The senator is optimistic that the Finance Committee and IRS can come to an agreement. But then again, the IRS has known about this problem for more than a decade and has done nothing about it. Do you see anything changing this time?
We need to make it change. Either they agree to change this policy and protect us as individual citizens, or we will force that issue through the committee. We need to make this a much more high priority issue and get to the bottom of this.
That meeting between the IRS and key members of the Finance Committee is expected in the coming weeks. Senate advisors have already had several meetings and discussions with the Inspector General's office on this issue, and possible legislation is being discussed behind the scenes. Bottom line, following our report, there is interest right now in Congress to find answers and to look for solutions. We'll keep you posted.